Guess I should have known. No, now my mind is blown. No, surprise. Guess I should have known. No, no. Now my mind is blown. No, surprise. Guess I should have known. No.
Welcome. It's Friday. It's Friday, and you know what that means? It's Vulture Culture Fridays. Hey, Mona Lisa, good to see you. Hello, Orel Okralat. Whenever I see Okralat's name, I don't know. I haven't really sounded it out yet, but sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Welcome to everybody who's coming in. I hope you're having a great day so far. I still got daylight here. It's 4 my time, and it's Friday, and we have a few things to talk about today. Did you take the poll? As you're coming in, I want to know if you have taken the poll. I'm looking at it right now. We have 15 votes, and so far, Justified in the lawsuit is winning out with 67%, and some of you are not quite sure, 13% of you, but 20% of you think it is frivolous. Go ahead and keep voting. I'm going to be talking about some other stuff before I get into the whole Armchair Detective thing. Hello, Alexandra. I'm going to address a couple other things before I get into the Armchair Detective thing. Let me grab my notes real quick here. Before I start getting into what I want to get into, I also want to see some information about how much you know about, whether you know about the Watts case, about the Chris Watts case. Can you, if you're there, I know there's at least some of you here, go ahead and put in a 1 in the chat if you are familiar with the Chris Watts case. And if you also are familiar with the Rzucek's issues with Armchair Detective, put a 3 in the chat. Because I'm trying to get a sense for, how much people in the audience have been, how long people have been around, how much they know. I don't want to be repetitive, but also I can review some information just to, hello, Cheryl, just to, refresh our memories on stuff. But I will tell you, I'm not going to do like a major deep dive into the specific issues between, hello, McAuley, hello, Love the Sum. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for voting in the chat. So I'm not going to be doing like a deep dive into the issues of the Rzucek family and Armchair Detective. There's 4 years worth of absolute battling over this issue. So this lawsuit that was just announced by AD on April 20th, but actually served to him a month earlier on March 10th, apparently, it had been around, but it really wasn't getting much attention until Armchair Detective came out with it. And there's hey, the Canadian cat lady. You're on time. You can't believe it. Well, good job being on time. So there's absolutely so much back and forth, and this lawsuit was threatened and has been talked about. This potential lawsuit in the UK has been talked about for a very long time, and Frankie Rzucek Jr. put up a crowdfunding page about it, years ago, I believe, and it appears that that is the funding that will be used, for the solicitors in the case. And the funny thing with these true crime cases, and then um, the disputes that happen as a result of coverage of those cases, a lot of times, the legal case is not brought. Welcome to everybody else who's coming in. Revy Green, Dare to Be Different. Hey, Mark Pash, welcome. So sometimes, what, when I address the chat, I go, and my brain has this issue with like being able to jump right back on this subject that I was just talking about. So excuse me if sometimes I lose my train of thought. It is definitely an art to be able to jump, or at least, I don't know what it takes, but to be able to, jump back and forth between two different completely topics. But as I was, I remember what I was saying. So when all of that stuff is going down, and when there's a lot more to see about the disputes going back and forth, that's not when actual lawsuits are brought. Hello, Lone Wolf. That's not when lawsuits are brought. The lawsuits are brought well after that, when things have kind of died down and it's not quite as. Thanks for saying that, Lone Wolf. Definitely do remember to hit the like button. But by the time we get to the point where it becomes it goes to the courts and it becomes a legal issue, a lot of the back and forth is just buried, and it's really hard to see both sides. So what I'm going to do for you guys here is show you what is available in terms of the case itself, from the solicitor, from Frankie, and then some of Armchair Detective's actual reaction to it, just to show you kind of both sides and how both sides are handling it. I do have, an opinion, but it's not heavily on one side or the other. My take on this situation is that absolutely, no question in my mind, the Armchair Detective exploited the Watts case. I put him, because of how much longer after the case had dried up, after there was really not much more to talk about, he just kept going and going. And there are still people who are going and going and going and going on the Watts case. And at a certain point, it becomes not about really getting justice in the case. It's a very plainly because it's a money earner. And I'm going to explain in a minute about how YouTube kind of drives these situations by its algorithm, and by the way it kind of portions or siphons off channels, such that it becomes more lucrative to stay on one topic than to jump around to different topics. Like if you start out a true crime channel and you start covering all kinds of different cases, and then all of a sudden a case that is getting a lot of attention brings you more views and more. Hello, Revy Green. Hello, other people who are coming in. Michael Shaw. When you see that there's a lot of views and there's also money to be made in the situation, the YouTuber is put in the position of going, well, do I continue covering cases that don't get as much views and attention, or do I lean into this because obviously people want to see it, it gets attention, and it's a money earner? And I feel like every true crime YouTuber is faced with that kind of moral dilemma of do I lean into this or do I not? And I believe that Armchair Detective made the financial choice to continue leaning in, but did it while saying he's trying to find justice for Shanann. He's just trying to help the case. And in all honesty, I have not seen where this this obsessive coverage of this case has done any good for the case itself. And so I'm gonna show you some of that. That's just those are my top line thoughts, and I don't blame the Rzuceks for their feelings at all whatsoever. I understand. In fact, I would. It really bothers me how families of, just in general, true crime families are put through the ringers by no choice of their own. They didn't choose to be put in this position. They didn't choose to have their, many of their loved ones be murdered. And it forces them into this spotlight that they're, in most cases, ill-equipped to deal with. And then when it becomes a massive case and people are just vulturizing it, like we see with a lot of coverage of the Idaho 4 case, when they're just vulturizing it, you start to buy one of his paintings. You start to see that, like really look through it, is this really helping? Hey, Marie, good to see you. And yeah, I do think he also, the Armchair Detective, made a lot of things up. And that pisses me off. It really pisses me off when, these cases go through cycles where, like the bigger cases, okay? The cases like Watts or like Kylie Rodney or Summer Wells or, and now the Idaho 4 case. What happens is it's really, even Gabby Petito, right? And I was live streaming with another YouTuber about Gabby Petito. It gets to a point where like it's really hot, heavy at a certain point, and there's a lot more to learn about it. We keep learning more actual legitimate stuff that is informative about the case. But what ended up, thanks Delaney, thanks for voting. But what ends up happening is that the case has kind of a shelf life, right? Even if the case isn't solved, people start questioning whether they have the right person, or they start picking through, vulturizing the discovery, right? And they start, and some YouTubers are willing to go even further and make things up, create situations and that should not be created, and in the case of the Armchair Detective, what he did was he determined in his mind, and I think he feels justified in his mind, to go after Nicole Kessinger, the mistress of Chris Watts. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but in that quest, he started making all kinds of things up about Nicole Kessinger and about her involvement. And he was going hard and heavy. And there's still channels right now who every day go live to just, basically call Nicole Kessinger a slut and all these things, not recognizing that it was Chris Watts who made the decision to do these murders. Okay. It was Chris Watts. So I'm going to get a little bit further into all of this, but let me look at some chats here. I want to. Final Countdown says, I was blown away to finally find out it was true that KK was in touch with Chris and his parents the whole time. Everyone said she was a liar. Turns out it was all true. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really going to get into other, YouTubers and, all the like battling that goes back and forth. That's the other issue with these true crime cases, is when they're big and certain creators start to get a name about that case. Creators start battling with each other and create all this drama. Let's dare to be different. I think families should I don't think families should be victimized. They're already suffering. Creators can cover cases in a respectful manner. I agree. The question is whether it's, legally they could be held accountable for that or not. And I think that's one of the reasons that there was a big effort a couple years ago to create something called Shanann's Law, which would have made it, against the law to, or at least, I don't know I don't think it was a criminal act, but it could be a tortious act to continue to drag victims of murder cases. And I don't know enough about the law as proposed to know whether, but I do know that it hasn't gone through, right? And it's definitely a very dicey issue when it comes to freedom of speech. I just think that when you make that financial choice to keep vulturizing a case, you better be prepared to face certain consequences. You really do. I mean, you need to take responsibility for the things that you do on your channel. And if you're, if you're could even be seen or appear to be crossing a line, and you appear to be crossing that line to all of us, imagine how hard it is for the family to be dealing with that line crossing all day, every day. But let me just see some other. It's the channels, yeah, exactly. It's the channels that speculate, twisting and airing false evidence that pisses me off. I might have missed something, Lynn. I know it's the Watts case, but what is he actually being sued for? I'm going to go over that in a moment. But there's one thing I want to touch on with regard to the Idaho 4 case and Lana Oriani's coverage of it. Now, if you haven't seen, I posted a video this morning about cyber harassment and taking it seriously. And I encourage you to check it out. And it wasn't about any creator whatsoever. I'm not taking up, arms on any creator on cyber harassment. I was just talking about cyber harassment. I go through 4 cases of intense, really shocking cyber harassment that went to court, and in some cases, the victim ended up being murdered by their stalker. And so it's just really important to not only know the difference between cyber stalking and freedom of speech, because some people are called stalkers when they're just exercising their freedom of speech. There's a difference between that, but it's also important not to minimize and normalize cyber stalking and minimize the impact that it might have on somebody who's actually being cyber stalked. And we should trust but verify. When somebody says I'm being cyber stalked, well, you need to verify that. But all this to say that I talked about how the personality of someone who might be likely to stalk, they get obsessive and they don't know boundaries. They don't have they don't respect other people's boundaries. They don't respect other people's privacy, obviously, because a lot of stalkers, they'll start digging into people's accounts. Sometimes they try to find ways to hack in to people's accounts, and it's there are no hard boundaries on YouTube from doing that. They can keep doing that on YouTube until they're penalized in some way, but it's too hard for YouTube to figure that out. So it just keeps going and going and going and going. Let me see. I think more channels will get sued, like the TikTok lady getting sued. Right. I agree. And that's what these, we can learn from these cases, but it's also a cautionary tale for people who just want to go out there and make shit up. This might be a consequence that, whether it's justified or frivolous, you're going to get a lawsuit slapped on you. It's going to cost you a bunch of money. And that is the consequence of you choosing to vulturize a true crime case. I just think that's the case. Again, whether it's justified or not. Let's look where the vote is right now. Let's see. We have 45 votes and 60% by far saying that it is justified, but still 22% of you are not sure. So, and I agree with this very much. YouTube should be also held accountable of allowing these channels to defame the innocent. I agree. It's such a complicated issue, especially here in the US, because we're much more on the, freedom of speech side of things, and we kind of allow things to go further than other countries do. In the UK, things are much tighter. But I was bringing up Lana's coverage of the Idaho 4 case earlier because I have an issue with something that she's been doing recently. And that is, if you follow the Idaho 4 case at all and Truth and Transparency's coverage of it, she had a kind of a viral growth while covering the Idaho 4 case. And much of that is because she was able to get body cam footage that other people hadn't found, frankly, from the night, from a few weeks before. Well, actually, the murders were in November. She found body cam footage from September 1st. And it had actual, Xana Kernodle is in the body cam footage. So you can see, and it was really, really so soon after the case broke, that people were really, really interested in seeing this body cam footage, and, good for her. Wonderful. But it seems that now, because that has been such a driver of growth for her, she's still seeking body cam footage from well after the murders. So I'm going to show you right now how, and I think I should have this queued up. I tried to get a little bit more better organized. Yeah, here it is. I tried to get a little bit more organized today, so I'm not taking as long getting these, grabbing these for you. So I'm not going to play a lot of this. Because I'm going to be honest with you. This creeps me the fuck out. What is happening here is she was able to find body cam footage from a couple weeks ago from Parents Weekend. It's from Parents Weekend, okay? So apparently there were noise complaints called in while the parents are doing the Parents Weekend. There were noise complaints called, and now Truth and Transparency has the body cam footage from these noise complaints around the area, on King Road. And, she's basically just playing the body cam footage, and there's really nothing to be gleaned from this. This doesn't, in my mind, solve crime. This is, in my view, voyeurism, okay? Because all they're doing is like basically intruding on the privacy of these private citizens who are just, at Parents Weekend for the party at the frat. I've been one of these parents at these, Parents Weekends at college, Mom's Weekend, Dad's, I don't go to Dad's Weekend, Mom's Weekend, whatever. I would be horrified if I knew that if a noise complaint was called during the party and some YouTuber is now playing it on her channel to the tune of, 14, 15,000 views. And it has absolutely nothing to do with anything. And I don't understand why the police are releasing this footage. Don't you have to say there's a good reason that you're, going to be airing this footage, that you're requesting this footage? Doesn't there need to be a legitimate purpose? And the other question this raises is, doesn't this mean that anybody could call in a noise complaint at any time, and knowing that the noise complaint happened, and do that just so that they could get the body cam footage from that call so that they could creep a little bit more into these people's private lives. This body cam footage has nothing, literally nothing to do with the murders of those 4 children. Nothing. So just to give you a little taste of what this is, what this looks like here. And again, I don't want to play much of it because it's voyeuristic. This is voyeuristic, you guys.
But it's not anywhere to be seen on any of the body cam footage. So I will read that report. Each of these instances have reports with them, meaning CAD notes, and I will read those notes off because there's additional stuff that happened that I can't find anywhere on any of these body cams.
I mean, it isn't like this is some great private investigative work. This is just literally, in my mind, stalking. This is my opinion. I can't prove that legally, right? I'm not a lawyer. But when you are getting body cam footage just from a specific area, where a murder took place, and then be creeping around through the officer's body cam footage while they're looking at kids' IDs, look at right here.
I don't recall any time dispersing, okay? All right.
So it appears that they were, the issue with the noise was that the fraternities were kind of chanting, right? And that is a very common thing for these fraternities do on, moms, dads' weekends, when they're having parties and stuff like that. And that's the noise complaint that was called. And so, the cops just wander in and they start just, checking, kids' IDs, and they're like, hey, yeah, everything seems fine here. What the hell are we going to get out of this? To me, this is vulturizing this case. It's a complete intrusion of privacy. And it blows me away that people could sit in her chat and be like, oh, wow, this is so cool. I mean, it's voyeurism, you guys. This is voyeurism. It has nothing to do with solving this crime. And one last thing I'm going to say is that it looks like, she does call-in shows where she has people call in and she puts a phone number up on the screen to call. If you are a regular viewer of Truth and Transparency and you use your actual phone number, your actual real phone number to call her, watch out. Watch out. I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do not phone call this woman with your phone. I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do not engage in a one-on-one interaction with this human being. I have shown that she will regularly end up in disputes with these people and then end up, regardless of whether you're a private citizen or a subscriber or another creator, your information will be put out there, whatever private information she has. So let me just see what some people are saying here. I want to make sure I'm not missing. Lynn, could you get sued? Say in the Idaho 4 case, if you say online that you think Koberger is innocent, but you think someone else did, and name the person. You could be sued. And Lana has done that many times. However, if there's a good reason, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so just take this for what it's worth. Okay. This is what I know of it. If you're making it up, and you don't have actual good reason to believe that what you're saying is true, and that what you're saying is false, then you could be liable. And if you're sued, you could be found, guilty, or if, you could be found, it could be found against you. You could lose that case. So that could definitely happen, but it depends on how far the accusation goes. And it seems to me like that's happening. Anyway, what's this one say? Just because you can request, just because you can request something through the Open Records Act doesn't mean you should, and either further share it when it's not relevant. Absolutely. That is the kind of ethical filter that a real journalist will put themselves through before airing content that has nothing. This is just content for content's sake. Oh, I got body cam footage, content for content's sake. I don't see that as legitimate. I suspect more of this will happen until laws change to adopt the digital age. I agree. And YouTubers with certain amount of users is liable for the crap they, I agree. Oh, hi, Sandy says, nice to see you. Thank you for saying that. I'm not sure, oh my God, why is for me, but maybe you could be more clear about, oh my God, why? Or is it because of this body cam footage that I'm showing you? I'm going to take this off because, again, honestly, it creeps me out. Like that people's lives can be intruded upon so heinously like this. She has implicated that whole house is being tied to drugs. Well, right. And that's part of what they've been doing while showing this body cam footage, is like scrubbing through it. This is not the first video or the live she's done showing body cam footage that's completely irrelevant to the case. Completely irrelevant to the case. So I just don't. I agree that a lawsuit against her is inevitable. I don't know where it would be coming from. I don't know who's gonna do it eventually, but I believe that could happen. Do you think Frankie Jr. is vulturizing his own tragedy by asking for private money via PayPal from purely on the basis he is Shanann's grieving brother? Exploration. Here's the thing. I can't answer that question because I've never been in Frankie Jr.'s shoes. I've never had my entire family, my sister and her children, murdered by my brother-in-law. I want to give grace to anybody who's going through that and then has to sit through, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of the case being, probably misrepresented in thousands of ways, in ways that are torturous to true crime families. And so I think the responsibility isn't as much on Frankie Jr. not to react to that. The responsibility is more on, people who aren't directly involved with the case, who are just making content out of the case, to recognize what they're doing and not vulturize. I believe that a lot of Frankie's behavior, and like, let's be clear, there has been some behavior that hasn't been super pretty. It's been ugly sometimes. I'm sorry, but I give grace to that. I've never been through that. I did not want to make anybody feel dirty. I just want to point out that is, it's voyeuristic in my opinion. So so that's how I feel about. I just, if Frankie was able to raise money through a PayPal, fantastic. Obviously, and we're going to be reading through this, okay? He also raised money for this case, and that money is still there, and it's being used for the solicitors. I said, oh my God, why? To your suggestion not to call TT Lana's. Well, I have not seen her dox viewers who call in, but I've seen her dox. I counted, and it was not an incredibly thorough count. I counted 38 different people that she has doxed. And that isn't instances of doxing. That's number of people that she's doxed. If she gets any sort of, rejection or slight, or thinks that you say something about her that she doesn't like, and you had any kind of connection to her, she'll like keep a file of all the information she has on you, and she'll just like pull that baby out, and it's not pretty, and it doesn't feel good. And I've seen this happen time and time and time again, and I've shown it on my channel. She streamed a subscriber's vagina. Okay. So like, what more needs to be said about that? It was just a subscriber that she was disagreeing with, and she aired that vagina. What more do I need to say? You know what I mean? I'm not yelling at anybody in chat. I'm not yelling at the, commenter. I'm just sorry. My hair is always, creator lost a defamation case. Yes, exactly. I covered that already. I covered that last week. So, but she lost, Critical K lost because she didn't prosecute. She didn't defend herself. She didn't do anything. Yeah, I showed that on some of my live streams. Go back and look if you're asking about the vagina. Absolutely. And in fact, she showed. It was sent to her, but she didn't have consent to air it. Just because you get it, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, Mona Lisa. I'm just saying that her defense has been, well, if you don't want, well, you sent it to me. You sent it to me. Sending you my nude privately is not a blanket consent to then air it on your YouTube channel. I'm sorry. That is what she chose to do, not the person who sent her the image. Okay. So anyway, let me get to, it looked like some of you are familiar with the Watts case. Some of you aren't. I'm going to just go through very, very briefly some, information. Okay. Just to level set and get everybody on the same page. All right. With how, the background on this and the players and things like that. So this is the Watts family. Chris is the murderer of those 3 other people in the picture. Okay. And when the murder happened, Shanann was also pregnant with a child named Nico. Okay. So this is the Watts family. This is Nicole Kessinger. Nicole Kessinger was Chris's mistress at the time of the murders. And it appears by everything we can see, it appears that the reason Chris killed his family was so that he could be with this woman, Nicole Kessinger. And there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not Nicole Kessinger, was actually involved herself in the case. And there are, I've gone back and forth on that. In all honesty, I've gone back and forth on that. But I figured out that we aren't ever going to know. She's long gone. She has never been heard from again. And there's really not much more to learn about, about her involvement. What we do know is that Chris Watts pled guilty to these murders, and he's serving a lifetime in jail. But a lot of people tried to make more of it than it was. And a lot of people tried to go in and save him from having a life sentence and get him out of jail, because his parents refused to believe that he could have been responsible for the murder of his grandchildren. So loads of YouTubers, and remember, this is right after COVID, right? Like this case became much more on the scene right after COVID. And there was this massive influx of new YouTubers and people talking about true crime cases, and people looking for ways to bring in an extra income. And they saw this as one way. And it just became a freaking free-for-all. I mean, just an absolute free-for-all. And a lot of the people who came in and started covering the case got deeply involved with the family. And, you know, there are all these divisions on YouTube about who's with the Watts and who's with the Kessingers. And with the Rzuceks. The people who had a tendency to believe that Shanann might have had something to do with the murders of the children they called themselves truthers, but that's very loose. Not everybody who's a truther believes that, but they started calling themselves truthers. And the people who refused, you know, who were against that idea that Shanann had anything to do, they called themselves shiners. And those were the two kind of radical sides. And then there was everybody in the middle, right? And yeah, I kind of agree, Mona Lisa. I actually think that Shanann was more beautiful. I really do. So yeah, and I don't know if she was involved in the crimes or not, but it's not for me to decide. It's not for me to decide, and it's not for me to go out and start making all kinds of defamatory content about her to try to make it true. And the conspiracy theories about her have just been off the charts, just absolutely off the charts. The mind of a malignant narcissist would think everyone would want to see, assuming. Yeah, I agree, but I agree. Yeah, I already said that. So that's Nicole Kessinger, okay? And this is the Rzucek family. Frank Sr., Sandy, or Sandra, and Frankie Jr. I'm just giving you a visual of who these people are, okay? And this is when they were on the Dr. Phil show, kind of telling their side of the story. And there was a great deal of drama surrounding when they actually went on the Dr. Phil show. It was to, if I remember, no, I don't, maybe it wasn't to promote Netflix, but right before they went on this Dr. Phil show, the law enforcement went and visited Chris Watts in Wisconsin in prison and did a new interview with him that was about to be released. And in that interview, he confesses to all the murders, even though he had told like 3 or 4 different stories about the murders before that. But in that confession, he confessed to killing all of them. And even and after that, tried to go back and put the shit back in the bowl and take it back through all these other YouTubers saying, well, no, he still has a chance. And now he thinks that now he can't remember anything. And he thinks he might remember Nicole Kessinger being there and doing something. And they're making all this shit up. And it's done absolutely nothing but vulturize this case. What's this? Literal insanity issues, good looking, but you have to be an absolute mental midget to advocate. Yeah. So that's that. That's the Rzucek family. And then this is Armchair Detective. And Armchair Detective really built a big name for himself covering the Watts case. If you don't know who Armchair Detective is, he's the one that that really brought to light these shadows that were seen in the surveillance footage the night of the murders. And he believed that he saw, he feels that he was able to prove that Shanann couldn't have been involved in the murders because the kids were still alive when Chris was packing up the truck. That's basically what he was saying, that you know, so he truly believes that this is his position. Armchair Detective his position is that he helped the case. He helped the family by proving that Shanann couldn't have had anything to do with the murders of her children because they were still running around the truck when Chris was supposedly loading Shanann's body into the truck and then driving off to work to take the bodies to Survey 19 and do the horrible, heinous things that he did. And so, whereas people tended to, the idea that most people had, and this is really based on what the DA said, is that Chris killed all of the family in the home and then left. Hold on just a moment. So the police's theory of the case, when they arraigned Chris and all of that, and when Chris did his plea deal, and what they came out and said when they did their press conference was that all of the murders happened in the house. Okay. And Armchair Detective feels that what he was able to prove is that only Shanann was the only one killed at the house, and that the children were actually put in the car alive, driven to Survey 19, the oil tank site, and then killed on site, and then put into the tanks and buried in the shallow grave. That is what appears, I think most people tend to believe that is what happened now. But in all honesty, again, it will never matter from a, case resolution perspective. The case is closed. The case is closed. Okay. But so that's the background on the players. And now I'm going to show you the different sides of the different sides that have come out in this lawsuit. Now, in this lawsuit's been filed in the UK, and there's no complaint paperwork for us to see. There's no, that I can tell, unless, you guys can tell me if I'm missing something. But the only information that we can get about the actual complaint and the allegations, the things that are being said about why they're suing him above and beyond what's generally being said. We don't know the, super specific allegations and complaints and the proof. We don't have access to that yet. We only have access to what Frankie is saying on the crowdsourcing page, what the solicitors in the UK are saying, and then also what Armchair Detective is saying. And I want to just show you all of that right now. But let me check chat. The virus made it 10 times. Yeah, exactly. 10 times worse because people were trapped home with nothing else to do. Yep, we were all there. And we went online. We went on YouTube. And if we were interested in true crime, we went to true crime. If we were interested in crafts, we went to, you know what I mean? It's just, and my theory is also that, because a lot of people did go onto YouTube at that time and they were looking to make money, there, just as much as there was an influx of just normal people going on YouTube and looking for new ways to make an income, so there were also criminals, right? It's a lot harder for criminals or ex-convicts to get jobs in, the real world. And there's no background check whatsoever to be a YouTuber. None whatsoever. You just have to fill out paperwork, and they're like, okay, as long as you got the, to be paid, as long as you have the subscriber count and the watch hours, boom. And then you send them your banking information, and that's it. There's no check. There's no screening, none whatsoever, to determine whether this person actually, their content is advertising worthy to be sold against. So that makes it easier for, ex-convicts who, and I have nothing against ex-convicts. There are a lot of ex-convicts on YouTube, and they're amazing. But there are also ex-convicts that are on YouTube who haven't changed. They still have a criminal mindset. They're going to come on YouTube and do all the things they can do, use YouTube in the ways that they would use any other criminal enterprise, find loopholes, find ways to scam more money. And I just think there's a huge influx of that kind of, and it's too hard for us other people to determine which is which until we see, a course of conduct over time. And it's very difficult to prove, and YouTube's never going to intervene or very rarely intervene at the point when it would actually help. And so we end up in these situations like we are with with this lawsuit that we're talking about here. So let me grab. This is the this is the website, or the crowdfunding site that that Frankie put up. I agree with that final countdown. That is true. I mean, there are criminals who haven't been prosecuted yet, but they're still criminals and they're using YouTube in that way. I mean, and if there's no stops, if there's no forced stops from YouTube, there's nothing we can do about it. And the laws, as I've said many times, and as other people have mentioned in the chat, the laws are not caught up. So here's the legal update that Frankie put on here on March 24th. Now, Armchair Detective wasn't served, or actually, I believe he was served March 10th. At least that's what Frankie has said here. But Armchair Detective didn't really start talking about it until like a week ago. So it's been kind of, this information about this lawsuit has been kind of trickling out. And I actually want to give credit to the Rzuceks, because I haven't seen this become content for them. It's just except for a very, straightforward update. Well, this is where we stand, and thank you for your help, and basically giving their donors an update, like with this update right here. And it says, I'm delighted to finally be in a position to provide you all with an update on how this case is going. But first, I want to express how overwhelmed I am with your support to date. I'm overjoyed to update you all that on 10 March 2023, my claim was served against the man who has been the principal cause of so much distress to me and my family. Alan Vinicombe, the so-called Armchair Detective, is in the King's Bench Division of the High Court in London. Mr. Vinicombe is based in the UK, and that is why we're deciding to bring proceedings here or there. I know you all have questioned why this has taken so long, but the evidence to consider in my case was extraordinary, with hundreds of YouTube videos to consider and hundreds of hours of context to view and preserve. As a result of the constant ongoing posting by Mr. Vinicombe, the scale of the task increased yet further even after I started fundraising. My team even had to respond to a letter of claim I received in relation to allegations that I was the one who was harassing Mr. Vinicombe. So this is, as typical with these things, both sides are accusing the other side of harassing. And I don't know if we're going to know what the real truth is until evidence is presented by both sides. It's just hard to know. But I do know that when you double and triple and quadruple down on covering a case the way Armchair Detective has, you have to expect something like this. I'm sorry, you just do. And people, whether it's illegal or not, the harm is being done. People are being hurt, and they're going to want to get some sort of justice for that. Let's see. The big money tree among live streamers centers around those with a following heading to disaster scenes to help out. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I read, let's see, I think It's taken my legal team an exceptional amount of time to get the case into good shape, but we have finally reached a stage where all pre-court matters have been completed. What this means is that my team served on my harassal former letter of claim, and we have moved into official court proceedings by serving claim form and particulars of claim, seeking damages and an injunction in a claim by me for defamation and harassment. As a result of Mr. Vinicombe's failure to reply to correspondence, and this is interesting. So they're alleging here that Armchair Detective didn't respond to correspondence about this. And that's irresponsible. He's going on and even if he believes that he's being wrongly sued or frivolously sued, it's his responsibility to engage with the solicitors and fight your case. And that's what happened with Critical K. I mean, she went out talking a big game about how she's, going to champion the fight for free speech. And then she just didn't show up. She basically gave the court the finger. That's basically what she did. And so they sanctioned her by giving her a loss on the case. So it wasn't tried. It wasn't really tried to see if she was wrong or right. She basically defaulted on her position by not fighting it. I mean, to me, that shows basically consciousness of guilt in a way. Okay, so let's see. I want to thank every single person. So this is, the thank yous. And then he says, further tracks from trolls. During the time it has taken my legal team to get my case on the stage, I've also been targeted online by trolls, accusing my family and I for stealing money from this fundraising process. This false allegation is one which Mr. Vinicombe has also made against me in a number of his videos. I'm very disappointed and saddened to hear these accusations that I have scammed people for money and have not put the donations toward the cause described in my fundraising efforts. I can confirm these rumors are not true. At no point do I have any access to the money, and as with all cases funded through crowd justice, the funds go directly from the website. And I want to say, so I did also read the solicitor's website page about this case, and they're basically saying that, we're putting this information out here just because we have been inundated with inquiries about this particular case. And they actually say on their site, in their write-up, where they're basically saying, we can't tell you anything, but we will tell you this, that that money is still there. It's not being misappropriated. So if people believe that there's been some sort of scamming done by Frankie Rzucek, take it to whatever correct authorities there are that need to decide it. It's not content. Okay, it's not content to make those accusations, and go and deal with it. So that's my position on that. I want to ensure that these rumors are addressed and the kind-hearted people who have donated to my cause receive assurance that their funds are being used to address the harassment and defamation, which has so badly affected me and my family. The case is moving in a positive direction. My family and I need the support we can get to obtain justice. And he says, next steps, Mr. Vinicombe is aware of the claim and there is a court-ordered timetable in place for him to formally respond. We are now waiting to see if Mr. Vinicombe will attempt to defend by claim or if a resolution can indeed be reached. So basically what they're saying is that, these papers have been filed. We may be able to reach some sort of out-of-court settlement, or we'll see if he's going to fight this and take it all the way to trial. So let me just see what chat's saying. My guess is YouTube closing down these channels after that happens, but the stream has reappeared days later with news channels. Yeah, that's true. It's just a broken system all the way around. It's a broken system. I will also say the Aussie is much worse. I'm wondering if there is. Good question. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, and I will also say this about Armchair Detective. He's never been one to. He's definitely involved in his own drama, on with the Rzuceks and certain other, and in certain other cases. But I haven't seen him go out and just drag a bitch every single day on other creators. He kind of picks his spots. He very much does focus on the true crime, and then he'll bring out his own personal drama. And in my opinion, when he brings out his personal drama, it's to, it's to get more donations, to get more support, to get financial support. Fundraising nonstop for 72, 96 hours, going to a location, passing out some water. Yeah. How does it work though, Lynn? Surely different laws. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by how does it work, what it is. But again, I'm not a lawyer. and I'm very much not super articulate on the case on the laws of the UK. So I don't know how I can answer that question. So let me go to a different tab, and I'm going to show you some clips from Armchair Detective and his response to this. Actually, let me just show you this real quick. This is what I'm about to show you is a video that Frankie Rzucek put on his channel, and this was in 2021. So it gives you an idea of, that he's held this position for quite some time. And it's real short. Hold on just a sec. Why did it do that? Why did you do that? Yeah, this is it. Okay. Sorry, folks.
Hey everyone, I got some breaking news on the Chris Watts case. All these new stories, speculations, this outrageous BS we keep hearing. Yeah, the only new thing is that he's never getting out of prison. He'll be in there for the rest of his life. AD and all the rest of you schmucks coming up with all this breaking news every day. It's hilarious. Thanks for the laughs. And Lana, good job spending all their money. Idiots. Hey everyone, I got some breaking news on the Chris Watts case. All these.
So I just thought it's funny that he's basically saying, look, this case is closed. Stop. There's nothing more to say. And, he's been much more aggressive in other communications and written communications and stuff like that. But I just think it's, he's held this position for a long time. 80 not too long ago had Lana as a guest. I know. It's like the conspiracy, move on. So, Armchair Detective has moved on to the Nicole Boley case, but in my opinion, he's now doing basically the same thing to the Nicole Boley case. All right, so here's some excerpts from the things that, and I don't want to blast the chat here, so let me get a better view. Yeah.
And now I consider myself an artist because people have written to me and say, you have a style that stands out, right?
Actually, Alexander, he wasn't thanking Lana. I don't know. Maybe I missed the actual words, but he was he was mocking her. He was mocking her. He wasn't thanking her. All right.
Well, this is tomorrow's painting. I haven't done it yet. Well, I'm going to say to you now, I need you to buy this painting. Because every painting I sell from now on will go in a fund to pay for a barrister when I do stand in court. I'll do all the work ourselves. We'll do all the work ourselves. When we come to court, I can't beat a barrister.
So basically, apparently, Armchair Detective does these paintings that, and in this specific situation, what he's waving around is a painting that he hasn't quite done yet, but he does these paintings about true crime cases. And he's saying, well, what I'm going to be doing now is selling these so that I can support myself with a barrister. So he's going to use true crime cases in these paintings to raise money for vulturizing a true crime case, defending himself in vulturizing a true crime case. That's what I see here. It really does bother me when people take true crime cases, make art out of it, and sell it. That shouldn't be going to anybody but the actual, some victim fund for that victim, not for, people who. I don't like that whole idea. And now he's saying, I'm going to be raising money, making these paintings about true crime cases, about the Nicole Bully case, so that I could raise money for defending myself doing the same thing.
I'm going to save all my money and employ a barrister if this goes to court. And I said, so far, it's gone to my solicitor. I will show you the receipt for my solicitor these through PayPal. They take me to court today. I can't see it.
This is him holding up a recent painting that he did about the Nicole Bully case, which is the current case he's been going after over and over and over and over again. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, Mona Lisa. I'm not sure.
You can't see it. It's the one I did today. 1 second.
So he's going to make paintings about the Nicole Bully case and then sell them to defend himself in another case. That's pretty meta. That's pretty meta. Here's another part of his response. And everything I'm showing you here is from the same live stream.
I'm not the end. I'm the poppy standing in front of the other creators who are going to get it. If he wins this case, it's a massive blow to free speech, because anybody will then see, well, I can sue somebody now. And you'll find YouTubers being sued all over the world because they say something somebody doesn't like. Is that fair?
So again, I think that's just of course, Armchair Detective has the right to defend himself, right? And every human being, in the UK and here in the US has a right to free speech. But you also have a right to the consequences of whatever speech you do. And these are the consequences. He made this choice. That's my opinion. And so, just like Critical K did when she was sued, he's saying free speech, free speech, free speech. Now every YouTuber is going to get sued. Well, that could be the case. And that's honestly a problem that the courts need to take up, that legislation needs to take up, to ensure that there's good laws and good contours to the law to go up to talk about this. But there aren't good laws right now. The money would probably be going to a poker tournament. He's a poker player. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. So there's exemption in tax law for artists. Interesting. So if you sell paintings or art, there's no tax. That's interesting. See, I believe Lana will actually be in jail at some point. The mind of the criminal. This is why she is always at the opposite side of the victim. Pride before the fall. I'm going to say something about that, because there are people who have gone around saying Lana's going to go to jail. Lana's going to go to jail. And also Frankie Rzucek Jr. made some postings a while back saying, you know, Armchair Detective and all these hate channels and troll channels, they're going to be in jail. Here's the thing. We don't know any of these people are going to be going to jail. We don't know until they go to jail, right? So when we come out and say definitively that somebody's going to jail and we have no idea, then we kind of lose credibility. It's hyperbole. It's hyperbole. And so then everything else that's said by you or about that has to be put in that, has to be taken into consideration, that there's a lot of hyperbole, you know, going around, and it doesn't help if you really are eventually going to be bringing a legal case against somebody. It doesn't help to be going around saying that they're definitely going to prison. You don't know that. So those kinds of things don't help. I agree. Chris Watts is responsible for the choices he made. Ultimately, I also believe Kessinger is responsible for the reputation she earned herself. Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's keep going to see if he says anything more here.
Is it?
Hey, Truth Justice.
If you get somebody with money to have a dislike of you, they can sue you. This is why I changed the world of Shanann Watts.
Hello, Armchair Detective here.
So that's, you know, that was his basically, you know, First Amendment argument, free speech. It's not First Amendment in the UK. It's something else in the UK. First Amendment here in the US. So here's some more.
Can't do that. It's just not the way of things. The same way, if you don't like what I do,
If you don't know what to do, positive vibes, get lost, jog on, get lost. Chris is jailed, so why are you still on about this? Okay, why are people still on about?
So just to help you understand what he's doing here, this is the same stream that I'm showing, but what he's been doing in this stream is reviewing his previous work on the case. So he's showing his own live stream and then he's stopping it and commentating on it by himself. So that's why it's a little confusing to see him paused there and then also talking.
Manson.
Let me wind that back. I want you guys to hear this argument.
Chris is jailed, so why are you still on about this? Okay, why are people still on about Manson? Why are still people on about 10 minutes in place? Why? That
is just not a good argument in my view. It's not a good argument to say, well, what about all those guys? What about them? I don't see people, you know, on YouTube that I know of who are covering Manson every single day. And also, you know, when the coverage of the Manson, I actually watched a recent documentary about the fallout of the Manson case. There was one of the guys who was murdered. You know, he was just, it's a long story. But there were actually issues with the way it was being covered. There was all kinds of misinformation. Some people believed that this one guy that I was watching it about, that he was responsible for all of the murders, that it was all his fault. All the same speculation went around. It just wasn't on social media. It wasn't the it just wasn't on social media. It was in the media. It was the media that was doing this. It was media that were picking apart the victims and victim blaming. And so there actually were issues at the time, you know, and in the immediate aftermath of the Manson murders, there were issues. So it's not a good comparison, especially also because now people aren't going live every single day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day if you count the Patreon, talking about the same case over and over, and just creating things to talk about because they've run out of things to talk about, creating more issues in the case that don't exist.
Why are people still on about anything? Because we're a true crime channel and we fight injustice. Positive vibes. What do you do other than criticize for the sake of it? Never ends.
So that's that. Him, it's basically his free speech argument, and that means we would never cover true crime. There's it's not about whether it's covering true crime or not covering true crime. It's the way the true crime is covered. It's what's said. It's the intention, and I don't think that Armchair Detective intended to hurt anybody. It's just that he made a choice knowing that this could continue to hurt people and continue to do it. So let's see what he says here.
Well, Shanann's family hate me because of this, and I never understand it. They're taking me to court.
So what he's showing here on screen is this is the shadows that he brought out. He's basically saying, hey, look, I saved the case. I helped the family, and now they hate me for it. Well, the difference is the true crime podcast covering Manson and other cases aren't reaching out to the Manson family, accepting money and favors, and then terrorizing the victims' families. Good point. But I think they were in whatever relative way it was at that time. I think that was happening at the time. It just isn't now. That's the difference I see. It's not happening now.
Because of this. Why? Why take me to court when I'm just trying to help? I don't get it.
So that just to me is so disingenuous to say, I'm just trying to help. I'm just sitting here, I would be doing this if I made no money on it. He didn't say that, but that's like, you take it to the next, you take it to the next level and say, I'm just doing this out of the kindness of my heart. No, you've made a great deal of profit off of this case. And it's not for me to decide where the line is, whether you should get to do that in the way that you are. It's going to be up for this case to decide for you. But I just think it's incredibly crybaby-ish to sit there and be like, I made it all better for them, and now they still hate me. No, you actually full on profited on this case in ways that you didn't honestly need to. But again, don't forget the algorithm. The algorithm dictates this a lot, because if you fly around into different cases, you're not going to build up that critical mass as much on your channel as you need to like start getting those views and that money. I just realized how fucking creepy it is looking back, knowing TNT took down the Reckoning channel. Oh my God. I don't know if we know that she took down, she's claimed credit for taking down that channel. You can't, there's no way to know that you took down a channel unless YouTube tells you did that. And I don't think YouTube told her. I think she made another one of her her freaking jumping to foregone conclusions by saying, because I made a complaint, the channel went down. A lot of people made complaints. That's just, we don't have control. The people who report channels, the people who report videos, we don't ultimately have control over whether a channel goes down or whether a video goes down. That is YouTube's ultimate decision. And they've made it a lot. There used to be a lot more gaming of the system to force a channel to go down or a video to go down. But now I believe they've worked around a lot of that. So it's not, you can't game the system as much anymore. So ultimately, again, it's YouTube's decision, right? We don't have control over whether that ultimate decision goes in the favor of, taking the channel down or taking the video down. So it's just silly to go around pointing fingers at different people, and for people to even take credit for channels going down. Why would you want to take credit for a channel going down? I don't know. Anyway,
They should be clapping me, really, not bashing me. She has a high ponytail on her head.
So that's just a few. That's that, and then there's one more.
Maria.
Oops, sorry. Here's one more. This is as he's kind of wrapping things up. Oops.
I've got to get some aspirins. Please buy a painting if you want to help the war. We're now in a war with...
Ah! Sorry, y'all.
I've got to get some aspirins. Please buy a painting if you want to help the war. We're now in a war with Frankie Jr. We're in a war. The battles are over. We've entered the war phase. He's trying to take me to court for £60,000 plus. I have to stand up to this. I don't have any money. I need you to buy a painting. I will show all the receipts for the paintings when we get organized. Thanks for watching the Armchair Detective.
So, you know, that's basically his position, you know. I'm right, they're wrong. I have First Amendment rights. They're just harassing me. They're suing me because they didn't like what I said. And the other side is like, no, the way you are making content was harassing. So I think these cases do need to come out so that we have a better idea as creators and as viewers where those lines are, because they're so freaking blurry right now that, you know, anyone with bad faith can just be like, well, you know, nothing's going to happen. Nobody knows what wrong or right is. So I'm just going to keep pushing on the wrong side until I get caught, and I'm not saying that that's what Armchair Detective did, but I think that's the mindset of a lot of people. Like, I pushed it this far and nothing happened, so I'm going to keep pushing it, and never mind what that the families are coming out and crying. And I feel like a lot of people, what happened with Armchair Detective is he ended up also not liking the Rzuceks anymore, or liking Frankie Rzucek, so it became kind of a personal vendetta for him too. That's my opinion. Let me just check my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let me just check chat here. Surprised NK hasn't sued anyone. I guess she just wanted to keep a low profile and move on with her life. Yeah. She probably has a whole new identity and is living, you know, who knows? I have no idea. There have been a lot of rumors that people have seen her around Colorado, that she's still there. Who knows? He knows he is not going to get sued, Lynn. He's just getting more revenue from the publicity. Well, he actually has gotten sued. He has now officially been sued, but I don't disagree with the last part of your statement. What else have I missed? One thing is certain, he is in a blind panic at the moment. He's accusing people of all sorts. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. I mean, I just don't, I just bogus to like not take any accountability for the choices that he's made. Yes, Cheryl. Yes. Does anybody else have any questions or any other thoughts? Where did we end up on our trusty dusty poll here? We ended up with 51 justified, 31 frivolous, and 18 not sure. You know, I think this is what I'm going to say. From a moral perspective, I see it being very justified. I don't know if it's frivolous or not. That'll have to be up to the court whether it's frivolous. But I think, you know, I think morally, I just don't know legally. I don't. Like, it's just way, way over my head. And we're just going to have to keep following along, you know? And it does not bode well if the Armchair Detective is not engaging with opposing counsel and not trying to, you know, figure out how to get this done. But maybe he is, and I'm just, you know, misinformed by what the other side is saying. So, yeah, he's getting sued, believe me, Michael Shaw. All right. Well, I think that's really it for me. Again, please remember to, interact with the stream. If you're watching the replay, please let me know in the comments what you think. I am always open to different opinions than mine as long as they are stated respectfully, really, seriously. If anybody ever sees me deleting a comment, it's because it added no value at all. It was nasty and added no value at all to the argument. It was just being accusatory and silly. So I just I don't like engaging in like, meh. I don't like it. I've done it. I don't like it. And also please, check out my video about cyber harassment. It's important to take it seriously, you guys. It really is. So, and I tried to kind of, because I have a large, like most of my followers are true crime people, or true crime fans. I wanted to show actual cases, like in a true crime case, to show that there are, and I picked 4 out of just multitudes of cases. Thank you very much, Final Countdown. I appreciate that. I looked through all kinds of different cases. There are some real famous cases like Paula Abdul. She was stalked until her stalker killed herself in front of her house. This girl, Paula, actually, the producers at American Idol knew that Paula Abdul had a stalker, and they actually allowed that stalker, knowing she was a stalker, they allowed her to come in and oh, thank you very much, Mark Pash. I appreciate that. And they allowed her to come in and audition, knowing that was Paula Abdul's stalker. That was a number of years ago, but man, I know Paula Abdul's pissed. I know she's also a drama queen as well, but I would have been pissed at that. Bringing my stalker right into the same room with me. Anyway, that girl ended up killing herself in front of Paula Abdul's house. There was another one, Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock had a stalker who broke into her house. The 911 call is terrifying. But I wanted to highlight cyber stalking cases because that's becoming much more prevalent, and that's really a lot of what my content is about. You'll have to look at the smear campaign waged on Frankie's CJF. It will make you vomit. CJF. I'm sorry, I'm totally not what's CJF? Sorry, I don't know what a CJF is. Maybe my brain. Look at my face is all red because I'm embarrassed. I don't know what CJF. I don't know, but I do know that Frankie's a picture of Frankie laying passed out on a bed was passed around. That was very unflattering photo, and it was passed around. That sucked. I just oh, okay. So yeah, I just feel like there's smear campaigns. Fuck smear campaigns. Fuck smear campaigns. I don't like any smear campaigns. I'm not a big fan of cancel culture, but I do believe that certain people should get canceled by their own actions, when they're breaking TOS and things like that. So anyway, thank you all for being here. I really, really, really appreciate it. Yeah, everything's a long story around here. Everything's a long story. It's too much. It's too much for the police to understand. It's too much for judges to understand. It's too much for anybody, any decision maker of note, anybody who could actually help us arbitrate these things. It's too long, and they make wrong decisions all the time because of that. There's too much, Thank you, Lisa K. Hide your real. Yes, exactly. I mean, and like I said earlier, use your phone to call into Truth and Transparency show at your own risk. If something happens after that, don't say I didn't warn you. I mean, it's plainly obvious. It happens all the time. Still to this day, TNT uses her community page to dox people. And the only people who really know it are the people who are being doxed. Because how do you know it's somebody's private information? Usually she's just dropping it in there so that person knows, hey, I got your info. And I'll keep releasing it if, things don't go my way. So a lot of people can attest to that truth, especially the one whose vagina was shown. All right. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to throw up my little theme music and bid you adieu.
Now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have